You're listening to Pete the Planner on 93 WIBC.
As you're sitting there drinking your coffee this morning, as you listen to the Pete the Planner show here on 93 WIBC, is it good coffee? Is it fresh coffee? It matters. It does matter. I'll tell you why coming up here in just a little bit. So much on the show today. You don't want to miss the second hour. That's not to say you don't want to hear the first hour, but the second hour, we're going to do a special investment edition of the Pete the Planner show here on 93 WIBC. So much to tell you about investing today at 11 o'clock. Why do companies care about their stock prices? You had to have asked yourself that question at some point in time. If you work for a publicly traded company, you have to understand why your company cares what the stock is trading at. It'll surprise you. Also, we're going to talk to an expert with Kiplinger about investments in regards to some of the things we hate the most are sometimes the best investments. Some of the industries we hate the most actually end up being good investments. And then finally, I'm so excited for this. We're going to talk to an expert in wine investing. How can you invest in juice, rotten juice, wine, baby, across the globe, and you don't get to physically hold the wine. It just sits in a warehouse, but you invest in it and then can sell it later. It's the most fascinating thing you've ever heard. But I digress. Hey, if you want to contact us, please do. Twitter's a good way to do it, at Pete the Planner. You can always email me too, PeteThePlanner@WIBC.com. And you can always go to WIBC.com to learn more about me and the show. But hey, I brought up coffee earlier, and there's a reason. You know how much I love small business. You know how much I love inspirational entrepreneurial stories. I like when people get off their keister. Can I say keister? When people get off their keister and do... Can I say keister? I got to think about that. When people get off their bum and do something. They have a dream, they grab hold, they stop talking about it, stop thinking about it, and just go. Currently, as it stands right now, one of my absolute favorite stories is about a company called Darrin's Coffee Company. As you may guess, it's run by a guy named Darrin, and he joins us on the program now. Darrin, how in the world did you start a coffee company? Because from what I understand of your background, short of drinking it, it had nothing to do with what you were doing previous to starting the company. How did that all happen?
Of a necessity. I wanted to find out a creative way to pay off some debt, and wanted to try something out. And I knew if you make stuff, usually if you make stuff and you make it good enough, somebody will buy it.
So this was a solution to a financial problem, is what you're telling me, that ends weren't meeting, debt obligations were not being met, and so you decided there was a need for additional income into your household.
That's correct.
See, that's what I love about this, by the way, is that this business was born out of necessity, out of creating more income so that you could take care of your financial obligations. Was there something that inspired you to do it other than finance, like in terms of coffee? Why coffee, and why not just make brooms or something?
Well, I read the book Pour Your Heart Into It.
Okay.
By Howard Schultz. It's a Starbucks book, and I just started to hear about the nuances and what he loved about coffee and how he was inspired by it. So I figured I'd give it a shot myself, and started out pretty much with just 5 pounds of coffee and really a popcorn popper.
So how do you get 5 pounds of coffee? Like, this is what I guess some people may not understand. It's not like you're buying 5 pounds of coffee at Costco necessarily, but you have to find raw beans. Is that right?
That's correct.
Is that hard to do? I assume you can probably just source it on the internet.
You can source on the internet, but you have to be careful. You kind of have to be careful because there are a lot of, of course, it's the internet. So.
Sure. Yes. I mean, yeah, you could have a girlfriend on the internet who could, whatever, which doesn't exist. Yeah. So there's my first Manti Te'o reference of the day, and we're 2 minutes in. That'll be my last one, I promise. So you start roasting your coffee on your own, and you figure out, how do you figure out you're good at that? Like, how do you figure out you can actually bring any value to someone's life by roasting coffee in a popcorn maker on your stove?
Well, I know the good thing about coffee is no matter what, whenever somebody gets a cup of coffee, they smile. So it's pretty difficult to mess that up. So I learned by sight, sound, and smell, and read as much as I could. And have customers that have, when I worked at Starbucks, have them try it out and read, and see, just kind of get their feedback and keep playing with it on and off. And pretty much you get to learn. You get very good at a trade when you're doing it with a popcorn popper. I got up to the point where I roasted like thousands of pounds just on a popcorn popper.
At what point? I mean, I know the business is still relevant. How old is the business, by the way?
It's 2 years old.
2 years old. So you were doing this on the side, and you had your daytime gig. But from what I understand, the daytime gig is now roasting coffee. When did that crossover point happen, and how did you know you could do it?
Well, it started to get to the point where the coffee was doing more, and I enjoyed the coffee a lot more than doing the day job. And I figured if I could go out and sell something for somebody else, if I could sell $1,000 for somebody else, why couldn't I do it for myself? I like myself more.
Yeah, well, I like you more too, and I don't even know the other person. So what I think's really interesting about this, I had the chance to try your coffee on a morning television show about a year ago or so, and your pitch was you haven't really tried good coffee until you've tried freshly roasted beans. And to be honest with you, I drink a lot of coffee, and I never actually considered that. I just drink. I want good coffee, and whether it's fresh or it's been vacuum sealed for a year, I don't know if I really care until I tried your coffee, and I was like, oh my gosh, it's fresh, and I didn't know what fresh coffee tasted like. How old is most coffee that people are drinking?
Usually it's months old. Coffee hits its stride after the second day. Then it's only good for 2 weeks. So if you're buying coffee that's in the store, I'm sure it's older than 2 weeks.
And so most of the way people get your coffee now, and by the way, let's get that out there, it's darrinscoffee.com, and it's DARRINS coffee.com, darrinscoffee.com. The way people get your coffee now obviously is on the internet. You do mail order, but also you've had some luck at Farmers Market. I understand you set up at the Zionsville Farmers Market. Tell me about that, because I know I love when a craftsman, if you will, gets their start at a farmer's market. There's just something so rich about that.
Yeah, the good thing about farmers markets is I of course have a business background, but I was looking out and I wanted to get a way to kind of test out my product and perfect it. So farmers markets are one of the best ways that capitalism just really works. It's the entire free market. So wanted to see which way it worked and what products would work best for the product mix. And people just they really started to love it, and I figured out exactly which ones would work best and started going from there.
So what's on the horizon? How do you grow this thing? How do you become more profitable? Or you try to get it into stores, or do you keep it just a mail order company, or do you try to get on Shark Tank, or what's next? What do you do? Well,
I have zero interest in getting on Shark Tank. I read the book that I listened to a guy. I listen to Seth Godin a lot, and he says it's not a cash flow problem; it's a customer problem. So as long as you find if you can do a dog and pony show for an investor, you can probably do a better one for a customer.
That's a great point. Yeah. So I know a lot of your coffee. I'm kind of just bopping around darrinscoffee.com right now. You do kind of a daily blend that people can have on a regular basis, but you do some pretty high end stuff too. The Kona coffees of the world and the Jamaica Blue and all of that. I got to think as an entrepreneur, when you are buying that raw product that is so much more to purchase at cost, the Kona and the Jamaica Blue, those are the ones you probably don't want to mess up when you're roasting.
Exactly. It's I know when I started out early, something I learned is I had one of my first customers online. She purchased some Jamaica Blue Mountain. She was it was a couple $100 worth of coffee she bought, and I messed it up. So I didn't make it to her liking. So I just, as a service gesture, I just completely redid her order.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's got to be, people love their coffee a particular way. Now, can people find you in any local stores in Central Indiana at this point, or still mainly at farmers markets in Zionsville and then darrinscoffee.com?
Well, I'm working on getting some placements in some stores. I know there's a store that's going to be opening up in June. It is Dolce. It's actually Crush and Brew. I keep thinking about it because the owner's name is Dolce.
Oh, okay.
Crush and Brew, and of course, I have technical office hours between hours of 2 and 5, where you can pick it up at the roastery.
Okay, the roastery. That's what it's called.
That's what it's called.
Who knew? I didn't. So very cool, man. Well, I wish you the best of luck. I think it's, number one, I took interest to this because I tried your coffee. It was delicious. I mean, really delicious. Shockingly delicious. Before I let you go, do you think people also prepare coffee wrong at home? Do people brew it incorrectly and that affects the taste?
Yeah, exactly, yeah. They're scared to brew it strong, so they end up brewing it too weak. So if they taste coffee and it tastes like dishwater, particularly if it's my coffee, then it's too weak.
Well, if your coffee tasted like dishwater, that would be a problem. Now, yeah. But there's also the right temperature to brew it out too. I like a not a very hot coffee, but you're supposed to brew it hot, right?
That's correct. Yeah, normally to about 200 degrees. That's when it's absolutely perfect.
I think I heard actually the other day on Shark Tank, the perfect temperature to drink coffee is at 140 degrees. Have you heard that before? Is that true?
Yeah, I've heard that. Yeah, that is true. Of course, you don't want to burn your mouth at 200 degrees. So, yeah, that's perfect. It's when it's absolutely perfect.
Coffee puts a smile on your face until you spill it in your lap. That's what they've always said. I think that's an old proverb. Coffee connoisseur and expert, Darrin Marion from Darrin's Coffee. Man, thanks, and so much luck to you is wished. That was the passive way to say good luck. So good luck, man.
All right, thank you.
Coming up after the break, more on the Pete the Planner Show. Best of luck to you from me. Did you hear what I just said? Oh my gosh, I've had too much coffee. But it wasn't Darrin's coffee, so it wasn't nearly as delicious. Coming up after the break, Dale Turner, sales and lending expert. I like this segment. People always say they're the best at customer service. I always think that's kind of a throwaway BS line. Next, we're going to talk about why it isn't if it's done correctly within an organization.